Welcome to Influence, the show about one of the university's founding colleges, the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. I'm your host, Emily Shaw, and on today's episode we'll be discussing environmental economics. And our first guest is Dr. Matt Interis, an associate professor in the Department of Agricultural Economics. Welcome, Dr. Interis.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about environmental economics and management as a major and as a field.
Sure. The way I usually describe environmental economics to my undergrad students or my parents even is it's about trying to make the best decisions possible about the environment by comparing benefits and costs. So other fields related to the environment have different ways of making decisions, perhaps with different objectives, management, wildlife objectives, management objectives. But in economics, we're constantly comparing costs and benefits. And another common misconception about economics is that it's primarily preoccupied with businesses and things like that. However, it's really not. So we try to account for all costs and all benefits. So if some action helps, for example, the birds to have better habitat, that's a benefit that we would account for.
That's very interesting. Tell us a little bit about your research in the field.
Okay, so traditionally, most of my research has been in a particular part of environmental economics called non-market valuation. So environmental economists do a lot of different things. My area of expertise is valuation, and what it primarily is estimating the value of things related to the environment that it's rather difficult to estimate the value of. So for example, if you restore coastal habitat along the coast of Gulf of Mexico coast, for example, it's relatively easy to understand what are the costs of that action because you can get bids from contractors to actually do the restoration, but understanding the value of the benefits of, say, restoring habitat that's going to help young fish for fisheries or for birds or to help storms be protected from habitat. That's primarily what my research is about, valuation. And so traditionally, I've done a lot of stuff on the Gulf of Mexico coast with habitat restoration, barrier islands and mangroves and salt marshes along the coast, both in Mississippi and the rest of the Gulf Coast. And then more recently, some of my research has been about consumer food choices and how that relates to environmental issues. So for example, if people are considering different tomatoes to purchase and maybe one is grown in a more environmentally friendly manner than another, how much more, if anything, are they willing to pay for that? And also, very recently, I've been doing some work on food choice as it relates to food waste and the environmental impacts of food waste.
So I believe you use stated preference surveys quite a bit. Can you explain that to us?
Sure. So when it comes to evaluation of environmental benefits and costs, there's different methods that economists use to estimate those values. One, they're all very well established and well known, but one of the major ones is called stated preference methods. And so this is a survey-based method where the researcher gives the respondent some kind of scenario about what might happen. So maybe habitat is going to be restored or water quality will be improved. And the researcher in the survey asked the respondent to state their preferences about that policy or action. So whether they're in favor of it or opposed to it. So stated preference methods have advantages and disadvantages, but one of the main advantages is that it can be used to value environmental changes that have not yet occurred or that potentially might occur in the future. So for example, potential future policy. The other main type of valuation method is called revealed preference method, and this is where people engage in some action that reveals their preferences. So maybe they buy a house that is nearer to a nice water body or something, and so that reveals their preference about their preferences for water. So.
That is all very interesting. As a student who might be interested in environmental economics, what kind of career paths can they expect?
Okay, so our major has been, it started in fall 2009, and so we're kind of at the point where some of our earliest majors are, 5 years out or so. They've gone into quite a variety of things. Several have gone to work for government agencies, such as the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, Foreign Agricultural Service. So I've done that. Others have gone, one or two have gone to work for environmental consulting businesses. Several have gone kind of into more more positions where they would compete against kind of business majors or fields like that, such as retail management or organic grocery store management. And then lastly, several have gone to grad school.
That is excellent. Sounds like a good career path for undergraduates. Thank you for being with us today, Dr. Antares.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll hear from Caroline Kelso, a graduate of the program.
You know the scene in those popular TV crime shows when the investigators show up? The one where they scratch their heads while trying to figure out who committed the homicide and when? At Mississippi State University, we're solving mysteries behind real-life crime scenes with forensic research that's a first of its kind. Teaming with microbiologists from around the country, we're examining microscopic bacteria that can help solve real murders. So far, our partnership with a major metropolitan medical examiner is yielding results with more than 200 real-life crime samples analyzed. We're learning how microbiomes change and relocate, uncovering evidence in criminal investigations by better pinpointing time of death. Way more exciting than being a TV detective. We're finding crucial answers when they're needed most. Solving mysteries with science, that's worth watching. It's hard to fathom. By the year 2050, Earth will be home to 3 billion more people than today. And with rising populations and dwindling resources, one of the most pressing questions is a stark one. How will we feed everyone? At Mississippi State University, we're preparing a meal table where there's a seat for all of us. As one of the nation's leading research universities, our scientists are deploying technology to enhance crop production, developing vaccines to protect aquaculture, working to boost water resources here at home and in communities around the globe. And by partnering with the League of International Universities and the United Nations, we're guaranteeing that global food security is a priority for years to come. As our world grows, so do the challenges. But when it comes to how we will feed everyone, rest assured, Mississippi State has all options on the table.
Welcome back to Influence. Our next guest is a student, Caroline Kelso, who is a new graduate of the Environmental Economics and Management major. Welcome, Caroline.
Thanks for having me.
We're so excited to have you. Tell us where you're from and how you got to MSU to be an Environmental Economics and Management major.
So I'm from Alabama, near Birmingham. It's a small town that most people haven't heard of, but it's called Moody.
Okay.
But I went to high school in Birmingham. And in high school, I was involved in a lot of different things. I thought maybe I would want to go to law school or political science, public policy, maybe even international relations. And I was raised by a forester. So I grew up with very much a resource management emphasis. I love spending time outdoors. And I had no idea how to blend all of those things. I thought I had like 4 different majors that I might want to do, and I didn't know which one I wanted to. And I just hoped that maybe there'd be an intersection of these majors that I could find and get involved in without quadruple majoring, because that's neither recommended nor possible. So I was looking, and I was just kind of Googling one day, just kind of what can I do in these fields, and the Environmental Economics and Management major at Mississippi State came up. And on a whim, I clicked on the link and I read it, and it was like someone had described me and what I wanted to do in a brochure, which was a little scary, not gonna lie. But I came to visit, and the people in the department immediately said, "Welcome to the Bulldog family," which I thought was interesting because they're my professors. Are they really gonna be family? And they were. They made that promise that they would be my family, my academic family, and inside and outside of the classroom. So it was the atmosphere. It was originally the academics that drew me to Mississippi State. And then the people and the atmosphere is why I call it home.
That is wonderful. You mentioned briefly international, and I understand that you spent time at the London School of Economics. Tell us about that experience.
I did. So the London School of Economics is world-renowned for producing really great graduates, having cutting-edge research. And I didn't even know if I would get in for the summer term, or if I would be able to handle it. So when I signed up, it was one of my last years, the summer before my senior year. So I took the highest level course offered for undergraduates at the London School of Economics, and I get there, and the professors say, welcome, for those of you from America, this class will be the level of rigor of an American master's class, which is terrifying for someone who hasn't even had senior year of an undergraduate. And they said, not only that, we hope you've had the prerequisite econometrics, which I've not had. So I'm going into this class knowing that it's a semester fit into 3 weeks, knowing it's the equivalent of an American master's, and there's a prerequisite that I don't have. I was scared, not gonna lie, but I also knew that my major is challenging and it's rigorous. And so I had the skills to study well, and I found out that I didn't have the necessary prerequisite, but I had the skills necessary to do well in the class because of how I'd been challenged in my major.
That is wonderful to hear about the major and the department and the support that you received. Another program you were a part of was our Undergraduate Research Scholars Program. What kind of research did you conduct as part of that program?
So we were looking at willingness to pay for a certain type of prawns, and it was really interesting kind of looking at how that would work and how that worked with different market structures. It was a very valuable experience. I'm in graduate school now, and I know what I'm getting into because I had that experience. And even if I hadn't gone on to graduate school, the necessary skills that I learned in doing that research, the networking opportunities I had with other professors was extremely valuable, and I would do it again if I could.
So tell us about your master's and what that's in and the research that you're now conducting.
So I'm now a master's student in the Agricultural Economics Department at Mississippi State. So I guess I just kind of graduated into the next level of our program. But my research has changed a little bit. I'm focusing on water quality. I'm working with actually Dr. Interis to look at the benefits of water quality. He had talked about costs and benefits. We're trying to understand what are the benefits of a policy that might be imposed.
What was one of your favorite activities that you were involved in on campus that you really feel helped introduce you to new things other than maybe those two experiences?
Well, I was part of the National Agri-Marketing Association, and I was on our marketing competition team for 3 years. I did not grow up around agriculture. It was something that I really wasn't used to, but we were having to develop products based on agriculture or that would help the agricultural sector. And I was having to learn about agriculture through that, but not only that, how to market, how to create a business plan, and also competing on the national level. My team actually made it to the semifinals of the national competition 2 years in a row, which we were extremely proud of because we had worked hard. So that was one thing that I really enjoyed. I thought it gave me great networking, business skills that I could use outside depending on what I do after my master's, but extremely valuable in building that.
Thank you, Caroline, for being with us today and sharing your experiences both formerly in the undergraduate program and now in the graduate program. And thank you for joining us on this issue of Influence, where we learned more about environmental economics. Please join us next time.